Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting has been called to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Initially, I am saddened tonight to relay that one of the people of our BAS family has passed away recently, Lisa Nagy. And the board and the district would like to extend our condolences to her family. And at this time, I would like to invite Mrs. Maureen Strachan up to the microphone.
Lisa Nagy was a talented and dedicated educator, parent, friend, and enthusiastic supporter of Brighton area schools. Throughout the past 20 years, she has worked for us as a classroom volunteer, educational assistant, substitute teacher, and in the last 10 years, running our visual motor integration lab, first at Miller and then at all the other elementary schools in the district. She was a beloved member of every staff, always smiling, positive, energetic, and generous. Lisa loved children and was beloved in return because she truly cared for each child. Lisa was passionate about the importance of the visual motor integration program and the impact on the academic success. She worked to improve our VMI integration lab, scheduling, accessing, speaking with parents, educating our own teachers, as well as speaking at educational conferences around the state. She worked tirelessly to make sure the labs worked smoothly in all the buildings. In the last few years, she also oversaw the Motor Moms and Dads program in all 4 elementary buildings, as well as tutoring many Brighton area students in the evenings and during the summer. Lisa thoroughly enjoyed being an educator, always learning and taking on new challenges. She finished her elementary teaching degree in her late 40s because she knew her calling was to be a teacher. During this time, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and then 2 years later with colon cancer. Through surgeries and chemo, she kept a positive attitude and persevered and was determined to walk across the stage at a graduation ceremony just weeks after her second surgery. We were amazed and humbled by her resilience and quiet fortitude. Perhaps Lisa's greatest contribution is that of her 2 beloved children, Drew and Paige Nagy. Both are recent graduates of Brighton High School and are currently in college. She was very proud of them for their good hearts as well as their accomplishments. She was also very proud and thankful for her husband, Frank, as Lisa described as her best friend and her rock because of his amazing ability to sustain, comfort, encourage, and love her through her battle with cancer. Lisa leaves us with a legacy of love, kindness, and a model of how to live and to die with grace and compassion. In her last days, she welcomed us into her home, asking about our last days of school, how our last days of school were going, how our families were doing, and what our plans for the summer were doing. She was always looking out for others, always a friend, a wonderful human being, and she will be greatly missed. In honor of Lisa and her family, we are setting up a Lisa Nagy Memorial Fund. I did want to tell you, on Saturday, while planning Lisa's funeral, her husband Frank went into cardiac arrest. I received news he's been in ICU since Saturday, and about an hour ago I received that he is awake, he's alert, and he's talking. So thank you for all your support and thoughts and prayers throughout this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Strachan. We'll take a roll call for attendance. President Fiani, here. Vice President Trombley.
Here.
Treasurer Conley.
Here.
Secretary Minor.
Here.
Mr. View, absent. Mr. Kraus.
Here.
Mr. Anderson, absent. Is
there a motion to approve this evening's agenda? Moved by Mr. Trombley.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Conley. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion is approved, 5-0. Recognition, Dr. Gray.
Again tonight at Maltby Intermediate School, Jody Reneker, a teacher of ours at Maltby, helped this group, and we'd like to bring them forward tonight for some recognition. The members are Cameron Ballou, Mackenzie Castile, Alexa Lamoureux, Michelle Baker, Jacob Barecki, Samantha Saylor, Holly Wickman, Amy Jane, who are nominated to receive a Shining Star in recognition for submitting a PSA for fire safety to the U of M Trauma Burn Units contest highlighting a classmate. These students put this together, and each year in the United States, 450,000 burn injuries occur that are serious enough to require medical attention. Burns are difficult and challenging injuries that can have a lifelong impact. The suffering caused by burns is made even more tragic by the fact that they are often preventable. The University of Michigan Trauma Burn Center has an unwavering commitment to the community to reduce the occurrence of these life-changing and devastating injuries. As such, the Burn Injury Awareness Public Service Announcement Contest provides the opportunity to educate others and ultimately prevent burn injuries. The students in Miss Whitty's and Mr. and Mrs. Emery's class at Maltby Intermediate School received first place in the 2014 Burn Injury Awareness Public Service Announcement Contest. The entry entitled Amy was judged on theme, creativity, content, and quality. The class received a $250 prize and recognition at the Burn Injury Awareness Walk and Safety Education Fair / Picnic on June 1st, 2014. Those students are in front of you tonight, and we send our gratitude and congratulations. Our other shining star tonight goes to our grounds crew of Environmental Creations, recommended by Gretchen Long. Jeff Vandermergel from Environmental Creations was nominated to receive a Shining Star recognition for his generous donation of time and support, work, and enthusiasm. He kindly gave the 4th grade class and parents so much help to prepare our garden, the 4th grade farewell gift. Not only was he there to help us in the evening to dig out the garden and design the area and Spencer sign, he helped with gathering donations, made donations himself, donated his time, and helped us to have a lot of fun. It was a lot of work carrying the sod and dirt. Thanks, Jeff. We definitely think he deserves a Shining Star for all he did for Spencer School and for making Brighton area schools look better. Brighton schools are lucky to have Jeff Vandermergel from Environmental Creations. It's great that he goes above and beyond for the kids of our district. So congratulations, Jeff. That's all we have tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Gray. At this time, we'll open the first call to the public. If you wish to speak, please line up at the microphone. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak. According to board policy, once one exhausts their 3 minutes, they have to return to the end of the line if they wish to speak again and allow everybody else an opportunity to speak. Please also relay your name as well. Oh, I'm sorry. Before we open the call to the public, if there's anybody who wishes to leave at this time, perhaps the Shining Stars, as we head to the business portion of the meeting, you are free to do so.
That's a good idea.
There's some chairs closer to the front if anybody wishes to move closer.
Okay.
So, at this time, we may begin the call to poet, so please state your name.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Roth. I live at 7651 Hunters Point in Brighton. I am a paraprofessional with Brighton Area Schools, and my 3 children are graduates of Brighton Area Schools. I am speaking to you, the school board and administration of Brighton Area Schools, because I understand that you are voting tonight to make a contract available to you in which you will be able to privatize school secretaries, maintenance staff, nutrition staff, and some paraprofessionals if you are unable to contract agreement with the support staff by June 30th of this year. I also understand that by privatizing, you plan to save the district in the neighborhood of $400,000 in 1 year. That sounds like a big incentive for you to pursue privatization. You have been using the term best practices when discussing this situation with people. I want everyone to understand that in this instance, best practices is the same as outsourcing, which is the same as privatization. If you are uncomfortable identifying what you are looking at as privatization, maybe you should be thinking long and hard about what you are deciding here tonight. Best practices, outsourcing, privatization will result in the firing of BAS employees who may or may not be hired by the new company. The new company will offer these jobs at a highly reduced rate of pay, reduced or non-existent benefits, reduced or non-existent retirement. Remember, Brighton Area Schools is looking to save money. If the company starts to charge the district more than the district is willing to pay, the district will contract with another company to keep costs low. Remember, Brighton Area Schools is looking to save money. There will be no guarantee that the people who have these jobs now will be the same who will have these jobs after best practices, outsourcing, privatization. If the district decides to change companies, as has been done with the privatized custodial services, that will result in another job loss for the folks who have chosen to go with the company, and more turnover in the students' educational lives. Remember, Brighton Area Schools is looking to save money. Brighton Area Schools have already privatized grounds, busing, and custodial services. I can't speak personally about grounds nor busing, but I can say with all honesty that the custodial services we have experienced since privatization have been disappointing. For example, in the building in which I currently work, a great deal of money was spent on renovations. Some of the renovations were to the student bathrooms. These brand new bathrooms are already looking and smelling unclean after just 1 school year of use. Remember, Brighton Area Schools is looking to save money. Brighton Area Schools has been working with a generous bond to improve the facilities of our district. I think that is wonderful. I am concerned that Brighton Area Schools are going to have first-class facilities on the outside, but little of great value on the inside. Brighton Area Schools is looking to save money, but at what cost? You do, in many cases, get what you pay for. How much is quality worth?
Thank you.
Very good. 4081 Hampton Ridge Boulevard, Howell, and I'm also a counselor at the high school. To quote the renowned MIT professor Noam Chomsky, privatization does not mean that you take a public institution and give it to some nice person. It means you take a public institution and give it to an unaccountable tyranny. Privatization not only strips our local and loyal employees of their health insurance and pension, but it also results in a loss of control over these job areas. Private corporations have only one goal: profit. Not great service, not helping the students or parents, profit. This is letting the 400-pound gorilla into our house. They may lowball bid us at first, but once they're entrenched, watch out. This isn't simply a switch, it's a bait and switch. They know how to effectively shake down school districts, and you can never cram into an RFP all the things the current employees are doing. Even the Mackinac Center admits this is a problem. In the mid-1990s, the Pinckney Community Schools found itself liable for charges its contractor submitted for doing work that was allegedly outside the scope of the contract. Even if this was just a misunderstanding between the district and the contractor, it amounted to an expensive and embarrassing misunderstanding. No one needs to make a profit off of our employees' backs, so all the funding can go straight to the mission. Privatization takes jobs workers can support themselves on and turns them into jobs they cannot support themselves on. Privatization undermines the retirement system for all educators as well, because these ESP workers are no longer paying into the system. School districts used to just pay a few % of payroll to the pension system. Next year it could hit 33% of payroll. Why would we want to contribute to that problem? Privateers are based outside the community. Profits they make do not benefit our local economy. Frequently, their new workers are from somewhere else as well and do not benefit our economy either. The quality of low-wage, untrained, high-turnover employees means substandard work and a potential risk to our students. These workers are only there until they can find a better job. There is no commitment, no loyalty, no extra mile. You get what you pay for. When Brighton privatized custodians, all the former custodians quit. DM Burr did such a lousy job they had to be fired. Ever since the privatization, we have been short-staffed and dealing with high-turnover workers. There have been reports of these workers sleeping on the job as well as taking things out of student lockers and classrooms. Parents must wonder, just who are these people working in my child's school? Our current ESP employees are long-term local members of the Brighton family. They know our kids. They care about our kids. They are the institutional memory of Brighton schools. They are the glue that holds the district together. I mean, can you really picture Brighton area schools without Bill Fleck or Cindy Stafford? I can't. If you want to see things fall apart, replace these long-term employees with a steady turnover of know-nothings. And the touted savings, $423,000, is less than 1% of our total budget. Is it really worth it? And if you're concerned about the governor's best practices, we've already done that, privatizing custodians. Thank you.
It sounds like there's been some valid and good questions raised. Dr. Gray, would you be able to provide some clarification at this point?
I can, if the board would like.
I think that would be great.
So the points that have been made so far, privatization, outsourcing for our employees, and they're all valid concerns in terms of that. We have one privatized group in the organization today, and that's the group that was just up here. There are only true privatized groups. Privatization is a separate company that manages workers, and DM Burr was our only other group that was a privatized group. DM Burr, the service, I would totally agree with people, wasn't as good as it was prior to that. Part of the reason of that was because we went from everyday cleaning to every other day cleaning and cut our workforce in half due to the fact that we were $8.5 million in deficit. So while I would agree with some of the comments that Barry had, some of the other comments in relation to that, I wouldn't agree with. We don't have that privatized group anymore. They had managers within their company that we dealt with their managers. Outsourcing, the difference with outsourcing, and the contract in front of you tonight isn't a privatization contract, it's an outsourcing contract. And it isn't to outsource workers tomorrow. We're still at the bargaining table with that. It's a plan B if things do fall apart in relation to those bargaining things. We're also bargaining with another group that we don't know where that will end and could hold bearing on the whole system down the road. In terms of outsourcing, the projected numbers that you see in the packet tonight of the $400,000 savings has us rehiring our same workers at the same salary with matched benefit levels. So it isn't to reduce salaries and it isn't to reduce coverage. It's actually exactly the same. We've actually even talked about if this were to happen because we couldn't get the bargaining done, that we might even increase some of those wages that have held for so long in terms of the $400,000. So that's the difference in terms of the privatization and outsourcing. The rumor is, one of the rumors is that we're trying to get rid of expensive people at the top, which isn't true as well. When we moved our busing, which went to LESA as part of a consortium, we hired back over 80% of our bus drivers from the previous group in terms of that. And so that was a high number because we didn't change, and we did change benefits to that. LESA actually changed benefits to that, but the salary stayed similar in terms of that. In terms of, again, the salary and that, the way it works, just if people know, if we got to the point of the outsourcing situation, employees would receive one letter, which is a layoff notice, and another letter asking them to reapply for the same salary and the same coverage in terms of benefits. And then we would meet with that particular group, the organization, and decide who works in the organization. That's how it works with outsourcing. And so we did that with custodians in the past when we moved to outsourcing custodians. We're still not completely staffed to the level that we had custodian-wise prior to when we went into deficit. But we have a budget that we're held to in relation to the custodians that's in alignment with the state debt plan that they approve, and they dictate how much we spend in certain areas. And so I wouldn't disagree. I think this district needs about 43 custodians. We sit at 34 custodians today. When DM Bird took over, it was below that. And so everyday cleaning is different than every other day cleaning, and the service wasn't as good. Totally agree. If people are in secretarial positions, this is the one I've heard the most about in terms of secretaries, and they're retirement eligible, they may retire, or in any position really, they can retire, take their full retirement benefit, we can hire them back the next day because they're not considered a core service, and they can draw their retirement and they can get the same salary and benefit levels that they had before they left. So a person, let's say on my floor, that had 29 years, the last time we privatized or outsourced a group, if they were within a couple of years of retirement, we held them harmless in the retirement system until they hit their total retirement, and then we switched them to outsourcing because it was about a 30% raise for them, because they could take their retirement and they could take the full salary and benefits that they had previously. So there are options beyond that, and there are some benefits. The people that don't get a benefit through outsourcing would be the people that have less than a vested amount of time in the organization. That's the people that really get the short end of the stick in relation to the outsourcing, because they haven't qualified for retirement, so they can't submit, and they don't make any additional money. The only thing they make is the same money they had before on the same benefit level. The savings you see in the contract tonight is based on the same salary and the same coverage in terms of benefits. It's not a reduction in that. So what's the savings? It's retirement. It's not paying the 33% that Barry talked about in terms of retirement. You actually pay about half of that because there's a management fee, not a management person, that goes along with the contract through outsourcing. So the workers, if they went through the outsourcing realm, would still be managed by the same people they're managed by today. They'd have less rights. We'd have right to placement. We'd have right to assignment, so we could put the people in the right seats in the organization. But they wouldn't have different managers, they wouldn't have a different salary, and they wouldn't have a different benefit coverage in terms of that. That's kind of the gist of this, and that's why it's different, privatizing, outsourcing, however you want to look at it. It's just the difference in who manages, and really the savings is all generated by retirement. That's the savings. And it's the portion minus the administrative fee for the organization, if that answers the question.
Thank you, Dr. Gray. I have one additional question. I've heard that parapros are concerned about being privatized.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the parapro. You cannot privatize parapros. Parapros are part of instruction, and state of Michigan law does not allow for parapros to be privatized. Our goal would be to hire back as many of the secretaries that would want to come back. We feel like we have a great secretarial staff and they take care of kids. We would work through if this were to happen, and I'm not saying it is, because we go to a bargaining table with them on Friday. So if this were to happen, our goal would be to hire back as many of the secretaries that we could, that we think do an outstanding job. And I would say that would be the majority, the overwhelming majority. Or we'd place them in seats where they could be more successful in relation to that. Would all of them come back? I don't know, because I don't work with all the secretaries. I would get with their particular administrator and ask them if they felt that that was the situation that they. So if you were a secretary that was making $45,000 and you were retirement eligible, you could retire, take about 50% at 22.5, and then come back at $45,000 and you'd have an absolute benefit relationship. If you're not, those are the people that get harmed the most, and that's less than half of the people that we looked at today in terms of. If you don't have 30 years, it's a prorated amount.
Thank you, Dr. Gray, for the clarification.
And I'll answer any other questions people might have about it.
Thank you, Dr. Gray.
Karen Wimberly, I'm a parapro. I've been one for 17 years. I make $17,000 a year. I'm confused about something, so I want it to be cleared up for me if possible. Last year we voted on a contract. We voted it 3 times before it passed. It passed because we were told basically we wouldn't have jobs if it didn't pass, and it got voted through. We promised that everybody's jobs was saved. 20 parapros were laid off. Most were not called back. This year we had a meeting. We were told if we were privatized, the parapros would have jobs, but we would be at-will employees that we would be able to be fired and getting rid of. So I want to know if that's true or not, and that we could not have a union.
That is not true. So parapros fall under the same guide that teachers fall under. And under state of Michigan law, parapros or anything dealing with instruction cannot be privatized or outsourced in relation to that. So privatized cannot be outsourced or privatized. It can't happen under state law. Last year, we passed the contract, we had a staffing level, we ran IEPs, we readjusted staffing levels in accordance with the IEPs. We are in compliance on all our IEPs, which is primarily all the parapros we have left, which are special education parapros. We have a couple general ed parapros, but we have under 5 general ed parapros. Once we settled the contract, we can't vary from the contract once we settle it. And our initial contract was a 2-year contract, but it ended up at a 1. And so there is no threat of privatization for parapros because that is illegal under state of Michigan law.
Okay. You were presented a contract. We, as a division, have not seen that contract. Isn't that something that we should know what's in it before you see it?
That's not our responsibility. My responsibility is to provide the information to the Board of Education in the negotiations. You seeing your contract is your leadership's responsibility. I couldn't go share that contract with you. I'd have an unfair labor practice tomorrow because it would be a way that I'm trying to influence you in terms of decision making on a contract. We've been bargaining for several months now in relation to your particular contract. If you haven't seen a version of your contract or the original offers of the contract, I would recommend you back to your leadership in relation to it.
So we, as a group, need to ask to see the contract before you guys work on wording and see it on Friday when we don't know what's in it, right?
I wouldn't know that because I don't run your group, so I'm not sure.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Gray, perhaps we could consider inviting VESPA to negotiate in public. That way there's complete transparency in the future.
We could always ask them. I would never have an issue with that. I don't have an issue with negotiating in front of people or behind closed doors. But I'd rather talk to their leadership about that at a separate time.
Okay. My concern is, the information's not being relayed properly. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nora Jabrowski. I live at 10441 Overhill Drive, Brighton, 48114. I'm a member of the Brighton community, a Spencer parent, and a PTO treasurer. I exhort the board to reconsider privatization of secretarial, nutritional, paraprofessional, and library staff. I'm certain the district will save money by privatizing jobs. On paper, privatization is a sound financial move. Whomever is tasked to fill the positions from the private group in the future will adequately fulfill the job description, I'm sure. But adequate is not what our students and families need. Students and families need excellence. Students and families deserve the continuing excellence we have received from our staff. Our experience at Spencer Elementary has been truly excellent. The front office staff of Judy Ford and Karen Jacobs go above and beyond the job descriptions you read on the paper. Judy and Karen are comforting caregivers to students who are in need, ill, or troubled. Judy and Karen are the knowledgeable conduits through which we as parents interact with the school. They are the calm front line of security in an ever-changing climate. Judy and Karen's excellence, professionalism, historic knowledge, and heartfelt care for our families make them an invaluable resource that cannot be replicated or quantified on paper. The paraprofessional staff care for our students who find themselves in challenging times. The consistent presence of a paraprofessional staff builds a rapport with students and finds their strengths to build upon. Those building blocks are not often easily or quickly found and would likely suffer with inconsistent staffing. The paraprofessionals support students who need stewardship to achieve excellence in the classroom. In the paper, we see stories of children denied meals because of deficits in lunch accounts. We hear of the ever-increasing number of students with food allergy incidents and problems, and the heartbreaking news of children's home lives not providing proper nutrition. This does not happen at Spencer. The nutritional staff at Spencer fulfills the requirements of providing nutritious breakfast and lunch for our students, fueling young minds for their educational exercise. But they also see that sometimes a parent forgets to replenish a lunch account, and students should not be made to suffer for that mistake. The care of accounting without embarrassing the student. Our growing population of students with allergies look to the nutritional staff to support them in making safe decisions and providing them a resource when in doubt. The nutritional staff see our students through a different lens and notice things that might not show up on paper. They may see a student whose family is on hard times but too proud to speak up. Their dedication and compassion fuels our excellence. As a mother of boys, I see our library staff as an ally in forming great readers. When the world of the rectangular screen and Minecraft are king, inspiring readers is an uphill battle. Our library staff are in the thick of that battle, cultivating and nurturing interest in reading. They guide young readers through the wonderful world of imagination and fascinating world of research and the ever-changing world of technology. Our library staff are the excellent stewards of the world of ink on paper and the evolving world of the internet.
Excuse me, ma'am. Could you please conclude, or you may continue if everybody else has a...
I am concluding right now, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The continuity of care provided by our staff is not a line item you will see on a budget, but the skill and care of our staff are an invaluable asset. Someone else can do the job, but at the cost of students. Make this budget decision that is not truly penny wise and pound foolish. Thank you.
Judy Ford, Secretary at Spencer Elementary. When I wrote this, I thought the vote tonight was for privatization. Thank you, Dr. Gray, for clearing it up somewhat. But I'm going to go ahead with my words. I am here to share my displeasure with your vote tonight to privatize most groups in our BESPA union. You won't find any more dedicated, trustworthy, compassionate, loyal, and competent employees anywhere. In most districts, these are preferred attributes. It seems that you, the board, and the district administration are trying to right this financial ship on the backs of the least paid individuals who work very hard. We are trusted by many parents, students, and staff. I do not believe that the parents of this district will sit idle watching the revolving door of the secretaries, in particular, if this was to happen. I believe that there is a lot at stake here. We are the front line to the school and the glue that holds everything together and makes everything run smoothly in the day-to-day operations. The secretaries have progressively gotten more and more job duties due to the privatization of the transportation department, for instance, and the custodial staff. We now run programs for field trips. Because of that, we run a program for the work orders to help the custodial staff out, because those are two duties that they used to do on their own. We recently are now handling a payroll function for our privatized group employees. Our jobs are very demanding, and we have to have very good time management skills in order to keep afloat. Now, due to a new security entrance, you have taken a very busy and demanding job and made it even busier and more demanding, if that's even possible. The full-time elementary secretaries are at their buildings for 4.5 hours by ourselves and are left to answer phones, run reports, run the clinic, help our principals, administer medicines, etc. Too many really to mention. All the while the door buzzer is going off due to the new security measures. I understand the need for secure vestibules, but there was no thought as to how we can do it all. I feel by you putting up A vote to privatize this is not only demeaning, but also I feel that it is devaluing us as employees. It's not a good feeling. I believe that a great many of us could not and would not like what the offer is. I'm hearing that it would mean a huge cut in pay, no more contributions to our pensions if we don't fit that criteria what Dr. Gray was mentioning, and bare bones insurance policies. I believe that there will be a high turnover rate, and that would be detrimental to our stellar school district. I don't believe that it would be good for attracting school of choice families. So for the very thing that you want to do, which is save money, may actually cost you more than you know down the road. So I stand before you asking you to not vote for this for the financial health of your district. Instead of privatizing us, I feel you should be talking about giving us a raise, because we know we all deserve it.
Jim Steiger, 5354 Princeton Court, Brighton, Michigan, 48116. My comments this evening are specific to the media assistance support staff. Many of the media assistance support staff have 10, 15, and 20 years of experience behind them. They understand those media centers backwards and forwards, and there's nobody else that understands them better than they do. There was a decision that was made last year with regards to doing away with some media specialists as well as some media assistants, okay? The situation we have at Scranton and Maltby is ludicrous right now. And let me explain to you. While you sit up there and you try and remain fiscally responsible, you've got a disastrous situation. You've got one media assistant and you've got one media specialist that runs both Scranton and Maltby. What happens when that media specialist is in classrooms teaching classes or doing book talks and everything else? Is there a closed sign on that media center? Absolutely not. Are kids coming into that media center? Yes, they are. Are books going out of that media center? You bet they are. That's tax dollars, that's money that's lost within your school district. Besides that, you've taken away the hours from the media assistants at the end of the school year to finish up doing the books that come in and doing the inventory. There is no way, unless they can do an inventory report, to know how many books have been lost each and every year. But I guarantee you, when you start that school year, you're going to have a whole heck of a lot less books next year than you had this year. It's a bad, bad situation and a bad choice. So I plead with this board, do not privatize those media assistants. It's a bad decision. Thank you.
Dr. Gray, could you please provide?
I can clarify for you, sir, if you'd like. Media assistants are considered parapros, so they can't be privatized. It's impossible for them to be privatized. So they just can't. They're under instruction, so they can't be privatized. Now, a position did get eliminated last year, the one position that used to fill either Maltby or Scranton in relation to that. And I think the comments from Judy are relevant as well. We would love to make that half-time secretarial position all the elementaries a full-time, so we had 2 full-times all the time. That would be another option we'd be looking at down the road if we can't get it done. And remember, our goal down the road is to continue to bargain with this group and see where we can end up. But media assistants are instructional and they cannot be private. They can't. And your group should know that. They should be able to tell you that. I'm just telling you, it's instructional.
Alan Lafferty, Maltby educator and also president of Brighton Education Association. I'm not sure how I could ever possibly do my job today without the folks that you're talking about outsourcing, privatizing, whatever you want to deem it today, with they're not in place. This is the Maltby family, and what you're trying to do is we're chewing off our arm right now. This is what you're asking us to do. That's what you are doing. I like the comment of a penny wise, pound foolish. I looked in the board packet, And Dr. Gray, you said you're going to save on retirement fees, less the cost of the product. Well, the prices range from 15.75%, 17.35%, up to 22.5%. These are the fees per dollar spent on wages. And since retirement right now is a little over 24%, I'm not seeing a huge savings right here.
Are you counting FICA?
Well, you mentioned retirement. That was your comment. I'm countering your retirement. You just said they're getting the wages and the benefits, but you're not paying their taxes?
Remember, there's a difference in terms of the percentages that you're talking about. That's where the savings coming from. There's no mystery to it. It's not wages, it's not benefits, it's retirement. That's the only savings.
Okay, and the retirement, again, right now it's at 24%. Mr. Good said it could go up to 33%. And so again, the rates are between 15, almost 16% and 22.5%. I don't know where the savings are. And then imagine in September when we all walk in the door and we see these strangers sitting there. And the administrators, I'm not sure if you've read this, but you're in charge of supplying specialized training or instruction unique to the premises. In other words, who's going to train these folks? Because everybody's heading for the hills. You look at the custodial staff, they were outsourced. Not one of them stayed. Not one. They either retired or they refused to take the reduced pay. I can't imagine where the savings is you're going to keep paying their Blue Cross Blue Shield. Are you going to still keep paying their current rate? The only thing you're saving is retirement? I don't get it. I don't get it. And then looking at these rates, I still don't get it. I think it's positioning. I think it's positioning at the negotiation table. Hopefully it's not political positioning, because that's the worst strike ever. That this is all being done for politics. It's a shame that this group, our family out here, is being treated this way. And Mrs. Ford, you're absolutely right. You're being disrespected. Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to speak at this time? Okay, the first call to the public is closed. We will head into the board reports and correspondence. Are there any board reports this evening? Mr. Trombley?
I'd just like to thank the Arnella and the other people that put together the graduation ceremony. I don't know how many people were able to attend it on Saturday, but again, it came off very well. Great production, a lot of great kids, and again, I'd like to thank the people that were involved in putting that together.
Thank you, Mr. Trombley. Any other board reports? 4 action items. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of May 19th, 2014 as presented? So moved. Moved by Mr. Trombley. Support. Supported by Mr. Minor. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion is approved, 5-0. Is there a motion to approve the resignation of Lynn Gregg as presented? So moved. Support. Moved by Ms. Meyer, supported by Mr. Conley. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion is approved, 5-0.
And we thank Mr. Gregg for his years of service.
Is there a motion to approve the PESG contracts as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Trombley.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Conley. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion is approved, 5-0. Is there a motion to approve the purchase of classroom furniture with Kruger International as presented?
Support. So moved.
Moved by Mr. Trombley.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Conley. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion is approved, 5-0. For future action items, Dr. Gray. We have the contractual agreement.
So in a couple weeks, we'll be making the recommendation to renew the contracts of Dr. Maria Gistinger, Dr. Laura Suri, star actor Mike and Shelley Kennedy through June 30th, 2016. The contracts for the assistant soups and administrative assistants are presented annually for a 1-year extension. approval from the board, and the length of this contract only extends the contract through June 30th. There is no increase in terms of financial compensation at all, just like the other administrators and myself.
Thank you, Dr. Gray. The resolution, MHSAA. Oh, yeah. Mr. Trombley?
Could you break those out possibly instead of doing it as a whole?
I can, that's the will of the board.
I'd like to see it.
I don't think that'll be an issue, just have it each listed as separate for action items, perhaps.
I can do that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Resolution, MHSAA.
Every year we have to do this, and we have to approve it prior to the end of June 30 in order to allow our athletes next year to participate in Michigan High School Athletic Association sanctioned activities. This has been done for decades and decades, and we'll make the recommendation in, I think it's 2 weeks, to move forward this recommendation.
Any questions? Ground services bids.
We'll ask in a couple of weeks for you to award the bid for the ground services for 14-15 school year as recommended. The way we'll recommend it is after we went out for bids for the ground services, the attached breakdown is below. There was a base bid, which is primarily all the general mowing around the district, that we will recommend awarding to Northland Services for the contract sum of $137,858 per year. That, again, is to perform general mowing and cleanup of school grounds. There was an alternate one to award to our Shining Star winner tonight, Environmental Creations, for the contract of $57,725 per year. That's for athletic fields contest preparation. And then alternate 3 is to be awarded, and our recommendation to Northland Services for the contract sum of $9,138 per year to perform school grounds and weed control. Both of these groups presently work together in the district already, and so there'll be a seamless transition as we head towards this.
Who will, since it's being broke up, who will oversee the 3 companies, or the 2 companies, since now it's under one now?
That'll fall under Mr. Marine.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Award of bid regarding rubbish and recycling removal.
The next board meeting will recommend the recycling removal bid be accepted for 14-15 and with an option of 15-16 and 16-17. We went out again with an RFP process for bid removal of refuse and removal. The attached is a breakdown of what we received. Oddly, the group that was with us previously didn't find it financially viable, so they did not bid. We have another group, the Republic Services, for the base contract of $36,213.96. For 14-15, if we are happy with their services and it's a replication of the number of dumpsters and size that we presently have, we'll probably be back a year later to recommend an extension of that contract. And the bid RFPs are attached.
Any discussion? Okay, state aid resolution.
Yes, you have in your packet our annual resolution to borrow from the state aid fund. I am happy to report that as the district finances are stabilizing, the amount of money that we borrow is decreasing. Eventually, our hope is that we will not have to borrow for state aid for operating purposes or for cash flow purposes. And we reach that point when we get to about 10% fund equity. So we're hoping in the long run that we will not have to borrow from the state to meet our operating needs.
Thank you, Dr. Gistinger. For information, Dr. Stchoryk, curriculum.
Yes, as you know, it's a very busy time of year. We're working on the consolidated application, getting our grant dollars in order for next year that fund our RTI program, fund a lot of our programs across the district, K-12. Organizing professional development for the summer and for next year. I think a particular note for the board tonight, I'd like to inform you that we have finalized an agreement to launch a math textbook pilot for Brighton High School for next year. It'll be a 100% pilot for our Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 classes. We're going with the Big Ideas program that we currently use at Scranton. And I would like to, I thought I saw Mr. Howdeman walk in. Oh, hi Jeff, you're right in the row. Glasses, sorry.
I'm so small here.
Well, I have to be looking right at you apparently. So, anyways, I'd like to thank him. I didn't expect him to be here tonight, but thank him for his leadership as one of the key communicators for the math department at the high school. He did pull together when he heard that we were interested in doing a pilot. Brought back some vendors, pulled the team together. I think they made a really, really good decision. Being a pilot, this also means that at the end of next year, if the math department's not pleased with it, we can box them up and send them all back. But it's a good situation for us because usually a pilot's a class here or there, or they rotate a car of books around, for 6 weeks here, 6 weeks there. But this way, they are excited. They're launching into how they're going to implement this, and if it goes the way it did at Scranton, they're very pleased with it at Scranton, and it'll make nice continuity 7-12. That's all I have.
Ms. Minor?
I have a question. You said algebra 1 and 2 and geometry. And if algebra is presented at Scranton, some of the students take algebra at Scranton, correct?
Many students take algebra there, so they have the Big Ideas textbook, Algebra 1 there. We are still using textbooks from 1996 in our Algebra 1 series, I believe, at the high school, so this will update and have that continuity.
So you're looking at the same series?
Mm-hmm.
The high school version is it's written in a little bit
right.
2 grades
It's for
higher reading.
It's a higher text.
But it's the same format.
Okay.
Mr. Howdeman, if there's anything you would like to add, you're more than welcome to step up.
When the announcement came out that we were lucky enough, Jeff Howdeman, I'm 7018 Summit Ridge. I've been with Brighton Area Schools since 2001. When the announcement came out that we were fortunate enough to be able to get these books on a trial basis, we've already have subgroups coming up in the math department where we're trying to line up the curriculum to the Common Core standards, depending on whatever the state decides. But we've got a very good organization set up, and I'm really excited about the opportunities that this program is going to offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Howdeman, and thank you for attending this evening. Any other questions or discussion? Finance, Dr. Gistinger.
Yes, I wanted to point out that the bills are in your packet for this past couple weeks, and then also our auditors are on site today. They started their first day of preliminary field work prior to our fiscal year end. They get a lot of the ticking and tying kind of work done, pulling random stratified samples of our bills that we pay and the cash receipts that we receipt, and so they're in the process of doing that. We expect them to be in the district at least through Wednesday, and then once our fiscal year closes, they will be back probably in September to finish up.
Any questions or comments? Thank you, Dr. Gistinger. Human Resources, Dr. Gray.
Well, we worked really hard this year, and we have 0 layoffs. If you track back to 4 years ago, we laid off about 80 teachers only, and considerably more in terms of support staff and administration throughout the organization as we dealt with our ever-growing deficit. This year is the first year that we do not have layoffs, and that the budget looks like it won't allow us or force us to have any layoffs. Presently, teacher rank-wise, this year we were staffed at 293. Today we sit at 288. My guess is there will be some creep in relation to that as we see who shows up. And we count the whites of their eyes at the beginning of the school year. I could probably see it coming close to in that range somewhat. But we have had some retirements that offset that a little bit in terms of hire backs, depending on if we hire anybody with years or not. So that's still an outlier. We won't know solid numbers until August. From now until August, we get a fairly steady stream of school of choice applicants. We have well over 40 already, which is ahead of pace this year from in years past. So that's positive outlook, at least at sustaining our population, because if you remember, we had a negative 45 decrease in our overall population in the budget. Hopefully that'll be a wash, or we won't hit that particular number. And so no layoffs. Henry, Shelley, Peggy, Scott Brenner, all did a wonderful job in terms of staffing this year. Not everybody ended up in the exact same position they might have wanted. There were some that did not, but we were able to fulfill over 90-95% of the requests out there. It's always easy to staff the first 95% of the people in the organization. The last 5 are the difficult ones, especially when you factor in highly qualified. But again, no layoffs this year, and we're pretty pleased considering not even several years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, we had over 100. So positive direction staffing.
Thank you, Dr. Gray. And superintendent report.
The only thing I have superintendent report is in terms of the earlier conversation. If you have any specific questions, I would answer them at this time. Otherwise, I go.
I know you mentioned it 2 times this evening, but I think there was an inquiry regarding the percentages. And can you provide additional clarification perhaps?
Well, the percentages are, it's a 16.44% savings. If you look at payroll of between $2.5 and $3 million, it's actually closer to 500,000. We budgeted light, obviously, in relation to that. But you have FICA at 7.65%, and then you have the difference in between our retirement rate as opposed to the fee that the organization charges us. So if anybody's trying to do the math, that's the math in relation to outsourcing.
Thank you, Dr. Gray. And I've heard a rumor that this particular group may not have enough union members at the present time to vote on a contract.
I don't know if that's true. There is a provision under state law that if you don't have enough participating members to have more than 50% or a quorum, that there isn't an ability to have a vote. I obviously don't get those numbers shared with me in relation to that particular group, so I couldn't comment one way or the other on that. There are always rumors in relation to that. I've heard some numbers that would qualify and some numbers that wouldn't. I would assume, again, their leadership would handle that portion of it in accordance with state law, so I don't really have any skin in the game on that.
And if a member of that group perhaps want more information or to learn more about contracts, who would be the best person for them to speak with?
It would be their leaders in that particular organization, and they know who they are. Like I said, I can't answer those questions individually because I'm barred by law to negotiate with individual members. So I can't answer. I can only negotiate with the negotiating.
Thank you, Dr. Gray. Are there any additional questions or comments? Great, thank you. At this time, we will open the second call to the public. If anybody wishes to speak, please step up to the microphone. You'll have 3 minutes, and please state your name. It appears nobody wishes to speak, so at this time, the second call to the public is closed. Okay.
Not so fast. Dr. Gray, we have some concern tonight, some question about instructional versus non-instructional paras, and paras are on the list to be laid off, but only in certain areas. Could you name exactly the areas that will be laid off?
Can you explain what list you're talking about?
Well, when you talk, and it says in the packet that non-instructional support staff. So that means paras that are not in an instructional capacity, for example.
Name a para in our organization that is not in an instructional capacity.
That's what I'm asking you to do.
We don't have it.
None in the CAD class, not in the auto shop, not in the hallways, no paras anywhere.
The people we have in our hallways are campus security, and they're already outsourced. In our classrooms, we deem all of them instructional, so none of them are a part of this, what we talked about tonight. The only people involved in tonight's discussion would be our secretarial group, our food service group, and our maintenance group.
And how many total employees is that would lose their job?
They wouldn't actually lose their job.
They would lose their contract with the district, and they would be recontracted with somebody else.
Right.
How many are there?
About 80.
80 total?
Yeah, I would say somewhere in there, secretarial-wise, you're about 30. Maintenance, you have about 6. And then food service, I'd say another 30, 40, 35 to 40.
Okay, about 80 people would lose their contract with the district and their retirement with the state.
The retirement, I would disagree on the contract because we'd hire them through a different contract. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I've been very open with you. The savings that we present to you tonight is just retirement. That's what it is. And those people that choose to be retirement eligible either by years of service and age, because you got to hit 80, or that actually qualify for retirement could see an increased benefit if they retired and then rehired at the same rate in that. But that isn't everybody. We want to make sure that's clear. And again, we're not recommending to do this tonight. I think that's the other myth in terms of that.
Wasn't it just voted on?
It wasn't voted to outsource them tonight. What it's voted in terms of is to allow down the road, if we don't get through Plan A, which is negotiating with that group, that we don't start the year without a Plan B. And so if it doesn't work out, that would be an option that we could look at. If it does work out, then we wouldn't have to exercise that option.
And would you agree that so far this group has contributed to the reduction of the deficit?
I think every group in this organization has contributed.
Okay, and that next year, Dr. Gistinger, we expect to be in the black, we expect to be out of deficit.
We hope, but I think you have to quantify that, Ellen, because as we talked about, before when we talked about budget, there's two budgets this district should look at. A budget with shared service in and a budget without shared service in.
Without shared service, I've seen it, we are still in the black, we've been operating in the black this year.
$10,670.
We are in the black this year, we're with our expenses are less than revenues, thanks to the groups that have given up over the years.
Remember,
and so we're in the
I want to
black.
clarify this, so please don't cut me off. In terms of the budget, next year's budget, without shared service, which is an outlier that could go away, we are $10,670 in the black.
And with shared
If you feel
service.
comfortable with $10,670 in the black with the variations you can have in a $50 million budget.
And what is the number
Makes me
with
nervous.
shared service?
With shared service, we project $1.5 million.
Okay.
Okay?
And do you
we
expect?
will never recommend to give away the dollars beyond what we break even at onto any scales, because that's how this district got into trouble financially in the first place. We are willing, once we're out of deficit and financially completely stable, to offer up shared service dollars in different formats so that people can get the well-deserved increases, and I agree with Judy and the other secretaries that everybody in this organization deserves because of the hard work they've put forth for the last 5 years. But until that point, I don't think this community would want us to drive the district back into deficit, and I know the state wouldn't allow it.
I disagree. I don't think this community wants to see their secretaries, their custodials, their maintenance staff and their food service, the folks that, besides the teachers in the classroom, are the next closest, warmest face that these kids see that takes care of them each and every day. I doubt that this community wants to see them kicked to the curb simply to save. And the thing is, this budget wasn't based around this cost, throwing these people out. This budget was not set. This $10,000 that we expect to be in the black. This is this aside. This will only put it at $410,000. You just want it in the bigger.
That's correct.
Black. Okay, at their expense.
You're saying I made a decision and you're incorrect.
Well, I'm
so
just saying.
I'm not saying to do this, but I'm also not saying to put the district at risk by not having a plan.
I'm just back a second. I'm just kind of disappointed that discussion just flew by. Not one word of discussion. I would really like, as elected members of this community, your thoughts on this. You've been quiet all night, and it just seems disingenuous to everybody here that we don't hear that no discussion took place. None. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sherry Walker. I have a son who hopefully is going to be in Brighton area schools next fall. I agree. You guys had no discussion. You're sitting up there. You were elected. No discussion. You're just, yep, so you can hold it over their heads if your negotiations don't go as you think or you want. I'm very disappointed. Maybe my son won't go to Brighton area schools like I did.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Roth. I have a couple questions because I don't understand something. If you outsource these folks that you're talking about outsourcing, who will be their employer?
Their paycheck is a pass-through through the company that we talked about tonight. Their managers, or their bosses, for no better term, are the same people that are their administrators in charge presently, their supervisors in charge. The difference is this organization was generated over the last 5 to 10 years to have options under the new state laws. And so the model doesn't actually change. The paycheck name changes. The paycheck name becomes whichever format under PESG, ESS, ESR, COCHES, any of those. The paycheck name changes, but the supervisor, the responsibilities in the position, all of those remain the same, as well as the salary and the coverage level.
But they are in fact employees of PESG or ESS?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
My understanding was if you retired from the school, from a state, Michigan State schools, that you were unable for a year to work back at these schools, and you could not retire if you had a promise of employment back at the schools. How does that work?
Several years ago, that was absolutely true. It still holds true today for a list of people that are on a core service subject. The groups we talked about tonight no longer qualify under a core service subject.
Secretaries are no longer core service?
Not according to the state of Michigan. So they're not anymore considered a core service. So you could, if you were a secretary, which I know you're not, if you were a secretary, and you retired tomorrow, you could literally, as fast as we could process paperwork, come back to work, take your retirement, and get your same salary and coverage levels.
And
That's how it works now. Now, teachers can't do that. Teachers are still considered a core service, so they max out at 1/3 of their highest income. So if a teacher maxed out, just for easy math, at $100,000 in terms of a salary, they could only come back to the school district after retirement in a certain wait period and make $33,333. That is not the case for secretaries. Parapros aren't privatizable or outsourceable, and all the rest still have that same opportunity. Now, you go back 5 years ago, that wasn't the case, but it has evolved since then. To answer your question.
I have one more comment regarding your custodial staff.
Yep.
My comment that the brand new bathrooms are not clean and smell of urine. This is with your new custodial staff. It's not better. I want you to just understand that this
I do
quality of
understand.
work is not what it used to be when they were Brighton Area Schools employees.
We need more people. I agree.
Thank you.
Which comes at a cost.
Hi, I'm Joe Kershey, former Brighton Area Schools employee. I do have a couple of questions. My first one is, and perhaps Dr. Gray or some member of the board can answer it, parapros cannot be privatized. Can their jobs be eliminated, or can they be
Of course. Of course.
laid off?
Of course.
Okay.
So there's a difference. Good question, Joe. So we staff our parapros, which are overwhelmingly well over 90% special ed parapros. Okay, that's well over 90% left are just special education parapros. Okay, and so they are scheduled by our special education director and principals based on the IEP season that we just went through in the school district. Last year, because RTI and other programs are decertifying or not certifying as many special education students as in the past, we were able to reduce the number of parapros significantly in accordance with the IEP mandated parapros. We have a couple of general education ones left, which we aren't going to eliminate, and those would primarily be your media aides in terms of that. But the actual parapros, we don't pick and choose staffing levels. Those are primarily mandated to us out of the IEP season. So if we got a huge influx of special education students, we would have to hire more parapros in terms of special education at the IEP, hour-wise demanded. If we have a decrease like we've seen over the last several years of almost 30%, 40%, 50%, that decreases the number of parapros that are mandated, and therefore that's why the number is lower.
So, Dr. Gray or members of the board, when you speak to not laying anybody off, does that umbrella cover support staff?
At this time, we do not have layoffs for support staff.
Okay. Is PESG an American corporation?
Yes.
It is.
Grand Rapids.
Have we done the research on it?
According to Dr. Gisler.
Okay. Well,
Caledonia.
okay, those are some of the questions that I had. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Would anybody else like to speak at this time?
I would offer to stay after if people have specific questions that they didn't want to ask in public.
I think that's a great idea. I'll remain here as
The
well.
closed session will not be a long closed session.
Ms. Meyer.
Yes, I'd like to respond to Mrs. Walker. I spent over an hour in person and on the phone today with Dr. Gray and Dr. Gissinger, asking all these questions, asking him to
Vet out the process.
yeah, vet out the process tonight. So that's why I didn't have anything to say. And I know some other people have done that too. I asked questions, he's answered the questions tonight, and so that's why I did not have anything to add to the discussion.
This same, this was for action 2 weeks ago, or at the last board meeting was for future action, and we've had 2 weeks in between time to talk to Dr. Gray about it.
At this time, the second call of the public is closed. We will head into closed session. Is there a motion to enter into closed session for the purpose of approving the May 19, 2014?
All I was going to say is I think closed session will take about 5 to 10 minutes. If you have questions and want to wait around and ask them, I'll wait as long as you want.
So, is there a motion to enter closed session for the purpose of approving the May 19, 2014 closed minutes and discussing negotiation strategies connected with DEA and the best of bargaining units, in as much as the administration has requested a closed session?
Motion to enter into closed session.
Moved by Mr. Conley, supported by Mr. Trombley. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Oh, roll call. Mr. Conley? Aye. Mr. Proud? Mr. Fiani? Yes. Ms. Minor? Mr. Trombley? Yes. Mr. View? Absent. Mr. Anderson? Absent. Motion is approved 5-0. We'll take a 5-minute recess. Thank you.